Hi there. Welcome to Blooming Into You. This is my new podcast on my own. My name is Kristen Dicker, and I am excited to start this project on my own. I used to have another podcast with my friend and coach, Becky Barber. It's called Try Self Love. And I thought I would try to do this now on my own. And in this first episode, my friend Megan Dirks is joining me. She's a brand coach, and she has agreed to interview me and find out a little bit more about my story so you can get to know me a little bit better. And Megan has a project that we'll talk about a little later called the Girl on the Left Project, and I'm really excited for her to tell you about that. But hi, Megan. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you. It's so awesome to be here. I'm glad you're starting your own brand new podcast for Blooming Into You. And I am super glad and honored that I get to be the one to kind of interview you so we can get everybody to know you a bit better.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited. So I'm nervous because, talking about myself is a little hard, but we'll see how it goes.
Sure. It is.
So
So,
whenever you're ready, yeah.
yeah, it's so counterintuitive, and we'll really dig right in. If we are ready, are we ready?
Already, yeah, I think.
Okay. Then let's just start with just a little bit of who is Kristen in a nutshell. Who are you?
Well, that's always a fun question. Sometimes I ask that question of my clients because people aren't usually focused on themselves enough to know really who they are. And so it's a hard question to answer, but on the basic level, I'm a woman. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a mother of four children and four animals, two dogs and two cats. I'm a reader. I'm a hiker. I'm a swimmer. I'm a baker at times, not officially, but I like to bake. I'm just a kind of a person who likes to, live in the moment and flow, really engage and connect with people that I care about and have a lot of peace in my life. And that's kind of in a nutshell who I am. Kind of boring, but that's okay with me.
I did not hear boring there at all. I
Okay,
heard
good.
a lot of awesome things that sound like fun. So, yes. Also just curious, if you are hiking, do any of the pets come along?
Oh, yes. I have an Australian Border Collie mix named Bo, who in this podcast you may see or hear them running around. My dogs do that and they often play and are loud. But he is one that like can hike all day long with me. He needs to get out and run around. So he's the one that goes. My little dog Archie is a Maltipoo and he can walk for 20 minutes and then I have to carry him. So he does not usually go on long hikes with me.
Fair enough. So, okay, Kristen in a nutshell, and then Kristen as a trauma and abuse recovery coach. That shift happened
Mm,
at some point. Would you like to
it
share a bit
did.
of that with us?
Well, yeah, in the beginning, there was I when I was a kid, I was very, I guess, trained to take care of my mother and her problems. And that wasn't such a good thing for a child to be doing, but that's the role I took on. And I felt that if I helped her with her stuff, then maybe I would have some of my needs met. And in the
Mm.
process, I became this little, automatic amateur psychologist. And I thought I did a pretty good job of, at 8 years old, being this psychologist for her. I'm sure I didn't, but I thought I did. And I thought that was my role in life was to take care of people, literally save and rescue people. So I became
Yeah.
a codependent person, and a people pleaser and all those things. And as I looked around, I kept thinking, people in my life are really sick, like physically ill, and they are also very sad and angry.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I connected those dots because I wasn't like we had the mind body connection back then in like the 70s and 80s as much
Right.
as we do now. But in my mind, I thought, I wonder if people weren't so sad, if they wouldn't be sick. Like maybe my family members wouldn't be sick and they wouldn't be addicted to alcohol and things like that um, if they weren't emotionally upset. And I
Mm.
just kind of made it my thing to help people overcome their emotional pain. And then when I was in college, I studied psychology and nutrition. and kept changing my major and ended up with sociology degree. And then I went into medical writing and healthcare communications and nothing related to psychology or emotions. But it was just, I was always a person who spoke from the emotional level in my,
Mm.
relationships. And I always wanted to help and be that person who was approachable. And so, um, then I got married and I had children and I kind of went on a spiritual journey as a mother. I kind of have a first awakening. My first born was born on November 11th, so 11/11 of 99. And at the time, I didn't think about the numbers 11/11, but I do now because at the time I really, stopped working from out of home, started working inside the home, taking care of my baby, and was home listening to Oprah and, all of her spiritual guests at that time. And I
Hmm.
just got really like, oh, my life could be different from a higher perspective. And I could, start looking in a bigger way towards something higher than myself to help me feel like I could actually be a great mom and overcome my past trauma. And so years went along and I raised four children and I went back to graduate school for healthcare communications. But then during the pandemic, I wanted to marry my love of nutrition, emotional health, and just like basically my psychology background into a career. And that's when I came across a healthcare institute and health what is it called? Health Coach Institute.
Health
And then
Coach
it's the
Institute,
school we went
yes.
to. Thank you. Our school we went to. And I became a health coach. But I also
Mhm.
did a next level of, word mastery level. And that was more in touch with like changing false beliefs about ourselves that we were created when we were little. And that got me on this pathway to like, oh, good, I can actually help people change from the inside. And then I went on to become a trauma and abuse coach um, based on that. So my ideal is, I want to help people heal their trauma and if they're in abusive situations in their lives, heal what has brought them into those relationships so they can be free of them, free of the old patterns and habits and beliefs, and create new habits and new neural pathways so they can actually have a life where they're living in their authentic self more. And that
Mm.
does happen the more we release fear blocks and old false beliefs. We do come into our own natural gifts, like more spiritual gifts or, you know, gifts in life, like what you're good at, what your purpose is in life. And I found that to be the case in my life. And that was a very long answer for your question, but I hope it satisfied a lot of
No, I
information.
love it because it does touch on a lot. And some of the things you say there at the end, I believe, are part of the reason, as the person who worked on your brand with you too and launching Blooming Into You. I know you have a bit of a tagline of wanting to help people come home to their authentic selves. And I will probably not word it right, so I would love to let you.
Oh yeah, that is right. Yeah, like it's blooming into you, coming home to your true self. And yeah, that's the goal is, once we're in our authentic self, we don't really care what people think about us anymore. And not to say in a
Mhm.
narcissistic way, obviously, I don't mean that, but in a, I don't need to apologize for who I am and what I think and what I believe. I have my opinions, you have your opinions. I might be wrong,
Mhm.
I might be right, but I'm not going to apologize for saying what I need to say if it may help you or if it's something that I believe in. And that gives you a lot of freedom to be who you
Yeah,
really are.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I love all that. I love that it's a very kind of celebratory, uplifting look at what is considered to be like a really heavy kind of niche that you work within, right? Or niche or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Hmm.
usually a lot of those topics, people are very, abuse, trauma, like very heavy stuff. And I feel like you do such a great job of kind of showcasing that work in a very positive, moving forward, like, look who you can be kind of way.
Right. Exactly. And I know the difference sometimes between coaches and therapists, let's say, is that coaches do different things than therapists. And if you go to a therapist, which is often very necessary in your process of healing, right? You could do self-help books or podcasts, but then you might want to talk to somebody. And talking through your stuff is very important, right? To have somebody actually hear what you went through and help you sort it through is great. And then my job at some point then is, if you're still running the old game inside yourself, the old loop and patterning, and you're still on that track of like, I don't know how to I process this. I know what happened to me, but I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to let go of things that are like not good for me. That's when I step. That's my job. Because that's where you're like, I'm sick of myself. I'm sick of this thing I'm doing all the time. I can't make a
Yeah,
relationship work. I can't find a job I
I'm
like.
over it.
I'm not healthy. Yeah, I'm over myself, right? I'm over this. And then we go through that. And my coaching is like, I work myself out of a job. I'm like, if we're gonna be
Hmm.
for 8 or 12 sessions max, probably. After that, you don't need me, and I don't want you to need me. I want you to function
Right.
in your life in a whole new way where you feel really good about yourself. So that it is a celebration. It's a celebration of like what could be, and the knowing that your trauma doesn't have to be the end all be all of your life. But it is important to acknowledge that you had trauma because we have all had trauma. Even if you weren't necessarily overtly traumatized by your parents, um, society traumatizes us. And so, I mean, our whole world is kind of based on emotional abuse. And
Yeah.
I won't go into that right now, but there's so many institutions and things that are designed to keep us sort of stuck and not being individualized and making us feel like we have to uh, gaslight ourselves. I know we're lie to
Yeah.
ourselves and like you're not really see the truth. And so again, that's a whole other topic. But the point is that like we've all been traumatized. And if we say we weren't, we're not being honest with ourselves or we just don't know it yet. So I'm here to say
Yeah.
you probably were. Um, and and good. Let's acknowledge that. Like
Yeah.
let's
That's
go through
not
the
a
pain of that or like
shame
talk about
thing.
that. Yeah, like overcome the shame of it. And then yeah, so some people will say, oh well, my parents did the best they could, so it's no big deal. But they did do the best they could, right? But that doesn't mean you weren't hurt. And so acknowledging that and working through the things that you were taught or took on as a child, because children really need to have a lot of control over their environments and they don't know how to do that, right? They just use the tools they have, which aren't that many,
Yeah.
to really take ownership of like it's my job to make mom happy. If I do this, mom won't yell at me or something. And it was never about you. It was about mom's own stuff, right? But so you can think
Yeah.
of that logically, but there's an emotional part of you that is still little kid that was hurt. And so we want to move past that and get onto that newer level of I acknowledge I had trauma and now I've gotten over the patterns and now I'm moving forward and I'm blooming into myself.
Yeah. Agreed. Because I know we were both also taught the like both and thinking. Like, yes, your parents did do the best with whatever they had, and also you have some drama.
Yeah,
Those aren't
exactly.
exclusive, right? So
Right.
I would love to know, as you got into this work, like what were some of the challenges that you noticed kind of consistently popping up as you started working with trauma survivors?
Uh, so do you mean like specifically like the people, the issues that they mostly face, or just for
Yeah,
me?
like what are the common symptoms slash pain points that are almost with every client that you'd have?
Hmm. Well, when I do a lot of the belief uprooting, the false belief, limiting belief, it's usually very common for people to think I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable.
Yeah.
And that's a subconscious belief. And the subconscious is really what runs the show. Our conscious mind might make us happy, like want us to be happy and be like, of course I'm lovable, duh. But the
Hmm.
subconscious mind says, well, remember though when you weren't, when you thought that you weren't because you got ignored and no
Hmm.
one took care of you and they made you invisible, you didn't matter. Remember that. And so your life really shows you what your subconscious believes. So if you're
Right.
in a job or a relationship where you constantly run up against, I feel so unlovable and I don't know why, because I know I'm lovable, but I feel like every time I have a relationship or a job, I'm not valued and I don't feel lovable or good enough. That's because that belief is still alive in you. So what my job is to help my clients get that belief up, change it all around so that your conscious and your subconscious mind are on the same page. And then you go and your life starts showing up differently. Like all of a sudden, like, wow, I have all these people that want to hang out with me. I guess I'm lovable. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it. So that's a challenge that people have, but it's and it's such a hard pain point to see because it's hard to see people not happy. And that as part of my conditioning as a child and wanting my mother to be happy, I wanted everyone to be happy. And it wasn't just because of her, just because that's who I am as a human. But it's it's hard to see people not happy. I celebrate happiness for people. I really don't, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, she's happy and I'm jealous. I'm like,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, like, let's all just join in the party. You know what I mean? So let's all be
Hmm.
happy. And so that's part of the celebratory nature of my coaching as well. It's like, if you're going to be happy, I'm going to jump on that with you and we're just going to celebrate all the good things, even if they're small things, but the
Yeah.
little things that you can be grateful for, like really help add to you having more wonderful experiences. So yeah,
Yeah. And we know how important the small wins are too, right? Because sometimes they're all you have.
yeah,
That can be scary and it can be easy to just overlook them and be like, okay, yeah, I got up today. You
I
got up
know.
today.
Yay! That's a good thing. I know. We take it for granted though. Yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
So, and on the back end of that, since we kind of touched on it leading into that question, did you personally have any of your own challenges kind of working with trauma survivors? Is there any burnout feelings
No,
that came up for you? Compassion fatigue, all that good stuff?
don't. And people say, gosh, your job must be so hard. I like you. Thank you for the work you do. And I'm like, well, yeah, no. And I'm not trying to act like I don't, like I'm above like burnout. Um, my job though isn't the same as like if I were a therapist and I had to, and it was like a lot of the same stuff. It's not like my clients don't come and tell me their stuff. But like I said,
Okay.
they're kind of over their own story. They're like, okay, I know all about this stuff that's happened to me. Now what do we
Yeah,
do
yeah.
now? So it's always sort of like a movement forward and a
Mhm.
transformation almost every time we talk. So it's actually very uplifting. Like I feel very exalted and like connected to my highest soul self when I'm working. But that's how
Right.
I know this is my purpose in life also because I will have a physical like blissful feeling of like nirvana or something. I don't even know if that's right. But
Sure.
I will
Yeah.
feel very like on purpose and just happy and enlightened to a certain degree when I help people because it feels like we're coming together in this like compassion and space of like love and healing that I think both parties feel. So I don't really feel burnout.
Mhm.
I feel kind of high.
That's
I don't know.
awesome.
It's a nice feeling. I guess I like it.
A very euphoric, kind of
Yeah, it's little
fulfilling
you.
situation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So then walk us through a little bit about how you approach your coaching. Like, is there core philosophies or systems that you tend to love, or
Mm.
what's like the Kristen process?
Okay, yeah. It's like, oh, it always depends on what's going on with the client. It's very customizable, but I have different like tools that I can use depending on what they need. And typically I will draw on sometimes hypnotherapy, which I have some background in, and again, the limiting beliefs, like really uprooting those. I do a lot of like embracing our negative shadow side as though
Mhm.
we're like okay with it because then it releases. And doing parts work like IFS oriented, that's internal family systems. It's a psychology tool that psychologists use, but we just call it parts work. And that's just a way to like really see the parts of you, like inner child or ego and like different parts of you that are sort of wounded, have been operating your system since you were little and kind of helping them to relax because they're doing like a hard job of keeping this like mask on that you're wearing. So
Yeah.
working with those parts is kind of a fun thing. It's kind of a fun activity, and it's using our imagination and things like that. It's a creative process, and yeah, I like to do those kinds of things, and just kind of just depends on what they need, and I'm just kind of intuitively guided each time to see what they need, um, in each session. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Are there kind of a favorite tool or two in your toolbox that you love to pull out that like you like working with or guiding people through?
I do love parts work. I am certified in parts work through a polyvagal lens, which is basically the nervous system. I do like to help somatically with parts that are in the body that are creating anxiety and disease, like in terms of health issues and just like
Okay.
having a lack of harmony in our body systems. And that's it's a really strong way to do the inner work. People are like, I don't know what inner work is. I don't know what that is. And
Yeah.
self-love. Like, I don't know what inner work is or what self-love is. And this is a tool that shows people exactly what it is to love yourself in all of your parts. And so that's a good one that I really, really love and find very effective with my clients. Because it's fun too. It's like they're like, I didn't know this about myself. I did, but I didn't. One of those. And it's like they're discovering something for themselves for like the first time in a way. And it makes them like create this more like this intimacy with themselves, this vulnerability,
Yeah.
and it's just such a great thing to watch them just excited about knowing themselves better and connecting. It's such a great feeling. So I love that one. And I love obviously the rooting up those limiting beliefs. It's like a scavenger hunt. I feel like a detective sometimes going in and like figuring that out, that process is fun. So, and I know, the process that we were taught. So I know,
Yeah.
like I think I don't know if you think it's fun, but I think it's pretty fun. I don't know if you still
I
do that.
do. I definitely enjoy parts work a lot.
Mhm.
Even beyond, like you said, for some people that have never delved into any of this stuff before. And, we come in and we're just like, do this and do self-love and do all the things. And
Yeah.
people don't know what that means. But I didn't know what parts work meant at first. And even on a very bare bones level, right? Like, there is the part of me that wants to start working out on Monday, and there is the part of me that wants to lay on the couch and watch 4 more episodes before I go to bed. So
Exactly.
even accepting the very like day-to-day minor parts of you that are in conflict with each other, I think is a super fun process too.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, a lot of this has been client focused, but I want to dig a little deeper into how did your kind of self-love, limiting belief journey go when you started healing some things for yourself, like being on the other side of that?
Yeah. Ooh, self-love changed everything in my whole life. It turned everything on its nose for me because the things that I had been accepting from people in my life, because I was such a pleaser and such a, want everyone to be happy and such a person that people could come to and unload on. And then there was no reciprocity. There was just me
Right.
taking on and giving, and I didn't know how to say no to that because I loved helping people, but I was being taken advantage of and used. And that left me burnt out, right? That left me very resentful. And, and then it had to change at some point. Like I said, I had been on a spiritual journey, especially since my son was born. And then when my mother passed away in 2010 on my birthday, it's okay. Don't feel sorry for me. You're like, oh no, your
Mm.
birthday. It
I
was a
was about to be
quite,
like, condolences.
no, it's okay. It was a while ago, but it was a beautiful experience. And I say that because I had the most connected experience of my life with the higher realms in terms of I got lots of
Right.
downloads about why she was in my life, that she
Mm.
served the purpose of helping me to become and awaken to the person I'm supposed to be in order to help other people by the fact that I was put through so much by her. And
Right.
that all came to me in one moment of noticing, of just awareness and awakening. And awakening is a process. It's not like it happens like
Mm.
right away, right? It's a journey. And so after that, I was on a very deliberate, specific, like you can't get off this journey. That was what happened. Like I was not unable to ever go back to just being the soccer mom and the whatever. I could do
Right.
that as well, but there was no turning back. You're going to figure out right now what your fears are, flaws are, limiting beliefs are, and we're not letting you off this job. And I have not been off this job
Right.
for one day in years, right? And over a decade. And so that changed my life because as soon as I was kind of forced into figuring out what I didn't like about myself, right? And how I felt unworthy or not good enough or unlovable or whatever the things were,
Mm.
all of the above, not valued, don't matter. I can list it out for you for years. I mean, it feels like there was a list of 20 things, right? rejected, abandoned. I had all the things. We have all the things, right?
Mhm.
And once I changed that around, I just started just discovering my own ways of doing it before I even got into the coaching thing. I had my own way of figuring it out, forgiving myself because well, why would you forgive yourself? It's not your fault. Well, no, but I did let things happen to me that
Mhm.
I shouldn't have because I didn't love myself because I couldn't say no or couldn't say, "Hey, how about I get to take up some space too? How about you hold space for me?" And so that started to really shift everything in my life where I wasn't going to take it anymore, like at all, right? Like I don't have to be angry about it, but it's like if it's not giving me peace, I walk out the door. And then I also have been on a like somatic healing journey this year actually, and that has changed my
Okay.
life again. So yeah, it's
Keeps
just
happening.
it doesn't end. I mean, we're always healing, right? But we just get
Yeah.
further and further. And I will say, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but sometimes you can be going along and you're healing and you're having a great time or things are going really well or something goes really, really well, like with a person or
Mhm.
experience. And then all of a sudden the ground underneath you like breaks apart and you're like, oh no, oh no. And you get really, really triggered into some like really horrible thing, like all of a sudden and you're like, how did that happen? I was just like
Yeah.
flying high and I felt so good. And then like a bridge broke and I fell through into the like water. Yeah, and that's actually called a bridge, right? It's like things have to crumble that were already created so that you can
Mhm.
continue moving forward on this better path. But things that have already been manifested have to crumble. And so it's like when you go into like that deep dive into the bad thing again, you come up faster. Each time you heal
Mhm.
more of that onion, the layers of the onion,
Yes.
you go into this deeper like trigger that's very deep, but the more you've healed, the faster you get back to the higher space, which is also cool. And I've heard a lot of people tell me that. I don't know if you've ever had that happen, but it's really cool.
Yes, I had absolutely had that happen. And I feel like, I had to question myself at first because I felt like I was becoming robotic because I was healing like too fast and too good. And it
Mhm.
was almost like
Yeah.
things don't phase you in the same way anymore, which is great. But at the same time, like you're still human, you still have emotions. You're just much more equipped to do that, bounce back and dig out, like you said.
Yeah.
I want to double back to a couple things you touched on too. The difference between like someone venting with you and someone emotionally dumping and taking advantage on you constantly, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we have a term for those energy or emotional vampires or something in that
Yeah.
wheelhouse where,
Yeah.
like you said, that reciprocity just isn't there. That can be really dangerous.
Yeah, it is very dangerous. And that's a good word for it. That's very dangerous because you lose yourself. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of losing yourself, like in other people or situations,
Mm.
but when you come out of the situation, let's say it's your relationship, and you have lost yourself, you've given every part of you to that person,
Yeah.
you're like a shell of a human being, and you really don't know who you are anymore, and that is dangerous. It is dangerous not to know, what you like, who you are. Again, that question, who are you? It's like I have
Yeah.
no idea at all. Uh, literally, I don't know
I
because
melted into another
yeah,
human.
I was like a clone of somebody else and I don't know who I
Yeah.
am at all anymore. And I used to think I was a pretty confident, secure, happy person. And now I feel like I'm a shell of a human being. Being a shell of a human being is not a good experience. So if you've ever felt that way, do whatever you can not to be there again, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure if you've done it, you'll realize you don't ever want to do it again because it's like the Dementors or whatever they're called in Harry Potter. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Those
Yes,
like
like one
soul
fucker
sucking.
soul.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that. Like I want one of those t-shirts because I'm not a Dementor, but I've had that experience. Uh,
Yeah.
it's hard. So, and so being vent, having someone vent is great. And people need that because once you vent, it kind of does it get vents in the air, like, okay, I said it.
Hmm.
But if somebody could let you vent too, that's good. Not just like I'm
Yeah.
jumping on you every single time and I don't really care about your problems. But I
Yeah.
built myself up to be the person who never had problems. You see, that was also my fault because
I
I
made
wanted
you
to
the
be the strong
go-to.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
and I never had the problem. So everyone in my life I would attract had all these problems, but they're like, well, but you don't have problems. Like, so I don't need to,
You're
what?
strong. You're
Yeah.
good.
Like, why are
Yeah.
you asking me to do this? I don't know. You're ridiculous. Like, it was like I was ridiculous for thinking that they would help me, and that was very
Yeah.
difficult, very difficult. Yeah.
Agreed. I feel I'm at the place in life where the most powerful thing that somebody could ask me, like impact wise, is simply, how are you? Because
I
we do
know.
spend so much time being that other person, right? Where it's just nice. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah.
honored.
Isn't that
Um,
funny? Yeah, that's sad
yeah.
and funny that
Uh,
it's interesting. I guess it's interesting that even being asked how are you is like passe or like, trite or trivial and like
It's
unimportant, but
become
it's
that, I
very
feel.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Society wise, we just don't anymore as much, I feel.
Hmm.
Or same thing, it's one-sided. But moving moving past that, the other thing you mentioned that I want to touch on too is the fact that we we are always healing, as you say. Obviously, we're always growing. And I think a really good part to keep in mind with self-development work, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is um, it's not trying to get you like fixed and done, right? Like, life is still coming, the world is still spinning. There's going to be more curveballs. There's going to be more things you have to grow through and heal through and all that. And I hate the misconception that it's like, I'll go do my work and then I'll be done. And then I'm good.
Right. Yeah, that's very disappointing when you realize you're never done. So I
Yeah,
did not like learning that.
I
It
had
was
that.
a hard pill to swallow. It's like, why the hell am I doing this then? Um,
Mhm.
well, the thing is, you want to, I think that the secret to it is you want to find peace within the chaos. So you always want to return to your secure base inside yourself. And the more securely attached you are to yourself and know that you're safe in your space, the more you can return. Like you'll see much more clearly the red flags of people who are not safe for you, or the job or the boss that feels wrong, a little off. You don't know why necessarily, but again, once you
Yes.
heal, your intuitive gifts do come online more, and you can see the things faster, and then go, ah, I don't know if it's nice if I get paid $1 million for this job,
This way.
but I'm just not gonna, do that anymore because I can't. All the money in the world does not work if I'm gonna wake up a shell of a human being because I've given my heart and soul yet again to another thing, and it makes me feel not peaceful and not harmonious within myself. And my mental and emotional health is way more important. And also, what happens is if you have the stress of having the mental and emotional issues coming up from your experiences, and you can't pull back to your safe and secure spots, that stress causes a lot of downstream medical issues. So your physical health is definitely impacted by your emotional health because the emotional issues create so much stress, and stress is like the number one, igniter of all the physical problems we have in our bodies and the illness we have. So it's really, really important, I think, that we all get our emotional and mental health in line so that we can feel secure and calm in our bodies so our bodies can stay healthy. Is that your nervous
Yeah.
system dysregulation will create a lot of problems for you. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but there I went.
Absolutely did. I love it. I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with us, like, as deep as you're going comfortable, as deep as you're comfortable going, what things were some of the key things that you experienced that you obviously like were not a fan of when you say, you're in a situation and it just feels like off.
um, I do this a lot in my coaching practice with people. I'm not able to diagnose anyone in
Mm,
any way. I'm not a therapist and I do not diagnose. I will not say someone is a narcissist. I will not say you have bipolar disorder. I won't. I don't care to know. I don't need to know. But there are specific ways people act when they're
mm,
abusers or being abused. And there are specific, just anybody can look them up online, There are
Yeah.
like certain things that people do when they have narcissistic personality disorder or act like a narcissist. And that does not mean I'm going to say they are a narcissist. But my thing is, how do you feel when this person gaslights you?
Mm.
How do you feel when you're forced into confusion in your relationship every single day, or fights for no reason that come out of nowhere? How does that feel? Does that make you feel peaceful inside your body? Or does it make you feel scared? Does it make you feel mad? I mean, and again, confused. Confusion is one of the red flags we look for in relationships. Your relationship should not make you confused.
Yeah.
You should know exactly where you stand in your relationship and where your partner stands, right? If you're forced to be confused all the time, that's a red flag, right? And so what I will do is I will help call out when somebody is projecting. If the person tells me, well, they said this to me, and I da da da, or I'll pull out if it, oh, that sounds like they might be projecting. Unless you do that, because that's what
Yeah.
you want when you're in a relationship that's confusing. You don't know who to believe. You start to
Yeah.
believe the other person's right about you. And if you don't know yourself and love yourself enough, you'll believe them that you're a bad person, right? They
Hmm.
will shame you because they'll put their own shame onto you. And if you're willing to take up that shame because you've been doing that since you were little, you'll go, oh, yeah, it's my fault that this happened. And it may not have been your fault. So it's like, I want to clarify for people, is that something that you normally do? If it is, that's
Yeah.
fine. But let's talk about that. And so I will identify the behaviors that seem textbook, like gaslighting or just, control or manipulation and things like this that
Hmm.
typically can be part of an abusive cycle, to help the person see what's going on. My job
Yeah.
is not to say you should divorce or leave this person. Of course not, because my belief is, if you heal, your partner can heal too. Okay.
Hmm.
Especially if you're connected on a deep level. If you heal, your partner will start to go, oh, wait, hold on. I want to catch up. Right?
This is better. Yeah.
Yeah, this is better. But if you're in a dysfunctional, toxic relationship and you heal, you'll notice that your partner won't like it. They'll try to like
Hmm.
put you down to where you used to be, or do the tactics even more, or make you feel even worse about yourself, or call you names because of their lack of self-love and their own issues that they're not facing. And then you get to decide which relationship you want. Do you want the one where you're kind of out the door because you can't, or do you want the one where you're in? The relationship out the door isn't a relationship, but you make the decision for yourself about how you want to feel, I guess. Can you stand it? Can you stand living in the situation now that you love yourself more with somebody who's going to make you continually deny your self-love and push you into a place of dis-ease in your body where you could actually feel like you might die if you stay there another minute? But if you can handle that, and that's what you think that love is this transactional, codependent, abusive thing, stay. It's not my life, right? But if you were to decide that you want to be happy and peaceful, even if you're alone the rest of your life, then you'll do that. You see, so that's kind of the nutshell of that. So a big nutshell.
Yeah.
I could
No,
talk all
I mean,
day.
it's funny because there's no nutshell to some of these things, right? Because it's like they're big, important things with life.
Mhm.
I think it's important too to point out. I'm curious your thoughts on this because as someone else in this space, I noticed things being very trendy the last couple of years. Like therapy is cool now,
Mhm.
and gaslighting and narcissism are like buzzwords that are flying around left, right, and center. And I think that's really dangerous too,
Mhm.
because not everybody with narcissistic tendencies, which is a scale, obviously, is a narcissist or should be labeled as one.
Right.
I think we're all susceptible on, not our most shining moments to fall into that, or a little passive aggression, or a little manipulation, or a little guilt, or whatever. Um, and I think it's scary when society is, painting everybody everything pretty much right now, and you can't move a muscle right now.
Right. Everything you do is like, oh, see, you're a gaslighter. Like even if you like just defend yourself and explain something, oh, you're
Yeah,
gaslighting me. It's like,
exactly.
that's not how it works. But that is dangerous But the thing is, truthfully, we all have narcissistic tendencies and there is healthy narcissism as well, which is closer to the self-love side. Some people are like, well, if you love yourself, you're a
Mhm.
narcissist. It's like, no, there's a very fine line, but it's not the same
Yeah.
thing. Okay. Um, but I think there's a very, very tiny percentage. I read it somewhere recently. It may have changed. I think it's like 1% of the population is actually narcissistic personality disorder. That's still a lot of people.
Right.
That's 1%,
Yes.
right? That's not a huge number, in the grand scope of how many people we have on this planet. But, we all have narcissistic tendencies. And the more we're unconscious about our own self living in our subconscious minds, the more we are narcissistic in nature, have those tendencies. Okay. But that doesn't mean you can't heal, because a lot of us are empathic too, right? Or have like empathy for others, or compassion. And, um, but if we have, like, let's say we are empathic, we come from homes
Hmm.
where we have like narcissistic tendency to parents, we absorb
Yeah.
that, right? So then we do kind of act like
Yeah.
kind of a broken empath, we'll call it. And, that's a person who acts a little bit more narcissistic. Are they truly? Can they really never change? No,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that. And I don't actually think no one, I think everyone can change. But I mean,
Yeah.
my thing is like you might have to have an actual brain transplant from some higher being to change if you're like fully a narcissist. But hey, that's not up to me
Right.
to decide.
If you're in the 1%.
Yeah. So it is dangerous. People want to use that as like a way to fight with their partner, sometimes, and say
Yeah.
you're a narcissist, like, and to like make them that that's a way to control your partner,
Hmm.
right? To say you need to treat me better. You're acting like a narcissist, and you should be ashamed of yourself. So do it my way. And to me, the person who's doing that is a little bit more narcissistic than the one who's being called narcissistic,
Right.
right? So, um, it's all emotional abuse. Okay, so in my work, I look at it like I divide it into emotional, verbal, physical, sexual abuse. It's like
Yeah.
these are categories that describe somebody who's emotionally abusing you right now. I'm not saying they're narcissists, because I can emotionally abuse. We all can, because we live in an emotionally abusive
Yeah.
society. We all know how to do it. We all know how to be passive aggressive and do all the things. It's just, do we want to
Hmm.
fight fairly or do we want to fight viciously? Because we can all be
Yeah.
passive aggressive, stonewall, ghost, silent treatment, control, manipulate. We all know how to do it. And especially when we're little, we learn how to manipulate. My people pleasing was manipulation. I wanted my mom
Yes.
to give me something that I wasn't getting. I wanted my needs met. So
Hmm.
I manipulated by trying to be her everything and save her. Okay. That's
Yeah.
manipulation. Does that mean I'm maliciously manipulative? No. I was just trying to survive. So we all have it in
Hmm.
us, It's whether we want to see it and change it or not.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think it's pretty fair to say for all of us that like all those things you listed off, like passive aggressive, stonewall, ghosting, all that, like chances are we've all done it within the last year and we've all probably had it done to ourselves within the last year, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not these big floaty, like once in a never terms. It's like they're happening actively to all of us. There's no like superhuman because we're coaches, we're not on a higher level or anything. Like it
Right.
still happens. And I
Exactly.
think that's worth acknowledging for sure.
Yeah. And we're all human. And if you have stonewalled someone in your life or in the past year, the past 5 minutes, see it, acknowledge it, forgive
Yeah.
yourself. You didn't know better. I swear, if you knew better, you would not do it this. If we all knew how to be at peace and self-love and have inner harmony, we would never hurt
Mhm.
another sentient being on this planet. And that is my
Yeah.
firm, firm belief. So if we're out hurting other people unknowingly or knowingly, we still have stuff to do to figure out and work on, and that's okay. It's part of being human.
I agreed. So I would love to touch a little into what, you've had your own journey, you've gone through your own healing, you've set up your own practice, did all your coaching credentials and learned all these other cool modalities and things to throw in your toolbox too. So now you have work that actually lights you up, actually fills you. You get that almost euphoric high. And I'm curious, how are you feeling right now about blooming into you and where you want the future to be for that as your business?
Hmm. I love it. I'm really happy with it. It's such a passion project for me. And like I said, I have a genuine desire to see this world be a happier place, a more peaceful place. And I feel like people were like, "Oh, you're so utopian," or like you're so idealistic. That can't happen. I believe it is happening. I believe that um, the work I do helps facilitate that because I give you actual tools to do it. It's not a
Yeah.
lofty, like, thing where it's like, okay, sure, I'll go sit and meditate like Buddha all day and then I'm going to be enlightened and then I'm going to, okay, you could do that. That might take a while and that's fine. And meditating is great. But if you want practical,
Hmm.
actionable steps to transform yourself in a way that you actually do change and you see that your life is improving and your relationships are better, um, do it. Why not? I mean, it's these things, at least that I do in my practice, are very like fun, I think, and uplifting. And I do believe in a better world. And I do believe that people who are inherently happy with themselves, like I told you earlier, they don't go around trying to destroy other people's lives. Because when I'm
Right.
in my own space of peace and I'm doing my own thing and minding my own business and not causing drama, I
Hmm.
don't think about how I'm gonna like gossip about this person or like stab them in the back or literally stab them in the back. I don't think about hurting people. I don't, I want people to just, I'm minding my own business and staying in my own lane. You are too. We can hang out and have fun and laugh and whatever,
Hmm.
but I'm not out to hurt you and you're not out to hurt me because we both feel good about ourselves. And when we feel good about ourselves, it's just better for everyone, right? And that rubs off on people. There's somebody who's
Yeah.
walking in the store and you smile because you like yourself and you smile at the person because you're just friendly. And you never know how you're going to impact that person. Maybe that person was thinking, I'm going to kill myself today. And they see you and you
Yeah.
smile and you all of a sudden they don't want to anymore and they have no idea why. This
Yeah.
lady didn't make me invisible. She smiled at me today and now I feel just a little bit better. And I think I'm going to put that off for now. You never know. Things like that happen all the
Yeah.
time. And so I think just being happy can impact people. And I think the way my business is going is very positive, very celebratory, as we talked about. And it gives people a chance to not only hope for a better future, but live a better future, one
Yeah.
step at a time. I really do. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I agree 100%. I love the ripple effect of what we do. That's probably my favorite part because I know we're often told the people we'll struggle with the most are the people we're closest to, like close friends, close family. And I think where that takes over is the fact that we can model it, at least, right?
Hmm.
And after watching us heal and go through whatever we're going through for 1, 2, 5, 10, however many years, I think it does rub off in, a multitude of ways that are just beneficial. Even if someone doesn't want to fully get on board, they'll still think about it maybe
Hmm.
later or at night, or if they catch a social media post and they're like, oh yeah, that would be better than what I'm doing right now. Or
Yeah.
I
Right.
think it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, since you kind of got into it and now looking ahead, have you noticed any changes like in your specific sub industry, things going on within like trauma and abuse recovery kind of world?
I think there's a very strong lean in toward, relaxing, calming down, and healing our nervous systems, which is really, really, really key. The reason for that is because it creates, when we are little, we have attachment to our caregivers. And when we're traumatized, we have attachment that doesn't really, that gets broken or doesn't get created or integrated initially. And
Right.
so many of us grew up not being secure in ourselves, not having that secure attachment of like a home base, when you're a little kid, moving away from mom slightly, and then you go back to her and she's like, hi, even though you only went 4 feet. It's that proximity
Yeah.
maintenance. And like, if you have a parent's like, why did you go away from me? Get over here. It's like that makes the kid like, oh shoot, I shouldn't, and then
Yeah.
there's an attachment that's built or formed, like it could be the anxious or the avoidant, fearful, or a disorganized attachment instead of a secure attachment. And when you heal your nervous system, you come back home to your secure attachment. And when you're in your, and we call it the ventral vagus part of the nervous system. That is where you have your wonderful social engagement with other people. You have confidence and clarity and creativity and security and peace. When you're in that space and you know that you go out there, like I said earlier, and you meet people and you don't really necessarily feel so safe with them for whatever reason, who knows what they said or did, you've got
Yeah.
yourself. That is so important. That's important in keeping us in our own lane, right? And not meddling in other people's lives and creating drama and being out of harmony. When we all are in secure attachment, we all do our own thing and we get along and we cooperate better on this planet. So it's
Yeah.
really, really key right now in the field to, there's a lot of words, you've probably seen a lot of things about the nervous system regulation, right? I'm sure you hear about it all the time, just like
Mhm.
narcissism and everything else. It's all healing our trauma is what's going to change this world. I am not exaggerating, because every way you heal it is the way to get you into peace. And when we're in peace, we learn to care about each other and help each other and have compassion. So I'm going to cry. I feel very like emotional
No.
about that. So I'm not like one of those people that's like, I'm going to save the world, but
Mm,
one person at a time, I hope helps, because I really do
absolutely.
believe it's very important. Like you said, that ripple effect is very important. So that seems to be a,
Yeah.
a key part of the industry right now.
Yeah. I love that. And yeah, I do believe in the multiplier for sure. So that one person, like you mentioned, turns into 10 people.
Hmm.
Those 10 people ideally turn into 100 people, right? And it
Yeah,
does keep going and going. So I
exactly.
love that. And it sounds like, yeah, there's a bit more focus on like body mind connection around the healing
Yes,
with, yeah,
absolutely.
finally acknowledging the nervous system in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, because, as we learned in our health coaching program, the body can't heal when it's not at ease. So when the body is stressed, it has to divert all of its attention to whatever's causing the stress. And typically, when there's stress hormones released, our body starts attacking our own organs
Mhm.
because it doesn't know that it's not something else from outside. And so then we have the autoimmune stuff
Yeah.
happening, right? And all this inflammation in our body. And then, of course, we have the downstream from that, and the health issues, I mean. And um, so again, if we can heal our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves that are not good and not true, by the
Yeah.
way, they're lies. That's what they're called,
Right?
false beliefs, right? Like the truth of us is that we're whole already, and we're already perfect just the way we are, and we deserve to exist, and we aren't invisible and all that stuff. When we have the belief of like, I'm invisible to everyone, nobody ever sees me, I don't matter, it's stressful, right? It causes
Yeah.
anxiety and stress in our bodies. And then our nervous system is stressed and doing all the things I just said about, attacking ourselves, rather than if
Yeah.
it's at
Yeah.
ease, we can do our bodies can do their jobs. We can do our job. We don't have the influx of intrusive thoughts of like, oh my God, what if I'm not perfect? I'm not going to be acceptable. They're going to abandon me.
Mhm.
That's a I'm not going to say the words, but that's a mind, a cluster. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot.
What?
It's a what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
don't mind cussing, but I probably will at times. But right now I won't. I'm just saying it messes up our whole selves when our minds are constantly going into this loop of negativity that we can't control.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
pretty important to change that, to heal to calm our nervous. If you care about your physical health, heal your emotional health. That's all I have to say about
Yeah.
that.
And I mean, how tropey and cliche is it that many of us have like gone to the hospital and we have all these physical symptoms and we don't know what's going on and we assume something like very health conditiony or very clinical and we go in and the doctor's like, you're stressed,
Mm-hmm.
your nerves are shot. You're
Right.
just like go chill pretty much. Like you don't need anything. You just need your body to like calm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it
Absolutely.
obviously starts with your head and your heart for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
It does. It does.
Um, at this point, I'd love to know like what kind of advice would you give to someone who maybe they don't necessarily have the money for coaching, maybe they're just poking around in the start of healing. How does someone get started?
I think it's really, really great to find podcasts or videos or books any content you can find that helps you gain information about what your particular situation is. To me, that's just the start of it because I do believe that true transformation helps in healing helps in relationship with someone. Okay. Like
Yeah.
you can create that strong, secure attachment to yourself through another human being helping you anchor into
Mm,
yourself, and remind
mm,
you that you're worthy and good enough. But in the beginning, and I did this too, I was all about the books, okay? All about the CDs or the tapes. That was back in the 90s. Um, and
mm.
I think the reading books and listening to podcasts is so uplifting so much of the time for people. It just really helps you feel like you're not alone and it kind of normalizes what you've been through, which is important because we often feel like we're the only one going through this. And you're definitely not the only one going through this. Everybody is going through something. It may not be the exact same thing, but we share very similar emotions as humans,
Yeah.
right? So we all have experienced the same kind of pain from whatever the situation is. And so that can kind of help you feel like you're not so alone. Groups are good too. If you can go to like, Al-Anon or codependency meetings or something where it was maybe a part of your existence as a child, any kind of group. It doesn't have to be those, but groups
Yeah.
can help too. So yeah, there are a lot of resources out there and I certainly have a lot of content. I write blogs. My old Try Self Love podcast with my old partner, as I mentioned, is up there. A whole bunch of episodes if that helps. And there are, of course, a billion podcasts out there from other people. And yeah, just
Mm,
decide if you'd rather be on more of like a psychological healing track or a spiritual one. Because to me, the psycho spiritual is very important. That you can take psychology
yeah.
so far and then you might head into a spiritual level and you might not. You don't have to. I just happen to
Sure.
have that, so I can go as deep as you want to go. For real, I've gone everywhere you can go.
Let's
So, and
go.
I've taken
Yeah.
every dead end on my healing journey that I think one can take. So I've done a lot of the wrong things, and that's really helped me to find the right, I don't know if it's the right path, but a path that I can say, you don't have to spend 30 years healing this. We
Right.
can do this much faster because I've kind of taken a lot of detours and if it works for the person, it doesn't have to, but if it does, let's
Sure.
do this in a shorter amount of time if possible. Because why? Why waste your life being confused, unhappy, and not feeling good?
Yeah, like you don't want them to also need 30 years. Like we've
No,
done this. Let's try for like one.
no, yeah. I mean, I'm very serious when
And
I
what a
say,
massive,
yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say like what a massive time compression for somebody to shave like 20 plus years off of,
Yeah, it's certainly, I mean,
you
you
know,
can do
that
that,
whole
right? Yeah. But I really do genuinely want people to feel happy, and I'm not just saying that. And why waste a lot of time getting to that place when you don't have to, you know?
yeah, absolutely. So, is there anything else that we haven't touched on today that you would kind of like your listeners to know to get to know about you? Is there anything we just didn't hit on?
No, I think that, you asked some very wonderful questions. You're so good at this. I should do this for a living. Gosh, you have a lot of talent. Um, yeah, no, I think we've covered a lot. I've said a lot. That's for sure. I know that. So, do you think I left anything out?
No, I think we're fine. I think you've shared some awesome stuff with us today, both like on a personal level to get to know you, and then also from a professional level too, and also just kind of mindset, what your core beliefs and practice looks like too. So that's really important because you want to find somebody, if you do want to work with someone, you want to find somebody that resonates with you. So it's always nice to have a little like behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
and on that note, I would love to wrap up with a fun question for you, just totally random.
Okay, good.
So, if you could be anyone for one day, uh, or spend time with anyone for one day, even, who would it be?
Well, now I am a spiritual person, as I mentioned. I'm not a religious person, but I would absolutely love to spend a day with a higher being, like Jesus or Buddha.
Mm,
I think
mhm,
I know I do watch a lot of near-death experience videos and have read books
mm,
on that, and that has made me feel a very strong sense of coming home to my true self. I feel like when I watch those videos and it reminds me of what it's like when we are no longer alive, I feel connected and I feel loved and I feel lovable and worthy. And it's extremely healing. That might be another thing for people to do is like watch those kinds of videos if you want to feel a connection to something greater that helps you feel less stressed and upset on this planet. Because sometimes this planet is filled with a lot of hatred and sad moments and darkness, right? So I always say I'd probably never spend one more day with a human being if I had one day with one of those higher beings who reminded me of who I am and saw me through their eyes as a being of love and goodness and wholeness.
Mm.
I think it would change my entire life and it would help me be a better human being. And I wish that we all could do that. That's to me, that would be like amazing. Like I would probably never like seek to like spend time with anyone again, which is going to be kind of sad. I probably not even want to talk to my children anymore. Like, go
It
figure
would
life out.
change
It would change
everything.
everything. I would. When I do that sometimes in my coaching, I have people like see themselves through the eyes of their higher power because that
Mm.
higher power, I believe, sees them as perfection. And that helps. That
Right.
can really be transformative. So that would be my answer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And at this point, I'm out of questions for you, so I'm going to pass that right back to you.
Oh, thank you, Megan. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the questions and the opportunity to talk all about myself. And of course, all of you will be hearing me talk a lot more in the coming episodes, but it won't really be about me as much unless I have anecdotal stories to tell. But Megan, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and effort and energy and being willing to listen to my ramblings. So thank you for being here and doing this for me. And hey, can you tell us a little bit about your project, The Girl on the Left project? So it's called. Sorry.
Ah,
Yes, this is probably.
yeah, yes, it is.
I have my glasses on, so I'm like,
Um,
what do I write? I knew
Of
that.
course, yeah. You are very, very welcome. Of course, it was super fun to be here with you and get to kind of go through this process and know you better too. So, Girl on the Left is my current focus for the next while, and I do have big visions for this. I want it to be a big, impactful social movement. At its core, it's a book anthology of transformative stories that was kind of created by me getting sick and pissed off of seeing like very toxic positive before and after transformations online. So it was always very like, you post a before and that's the photo that goes on the left. You post an after and that's the one that goes next to it on the right. And it's just always kind of like, here's this loser version of you. And then here's the super filtered, sparkly, shiny version of you. And I feel as though in our journeys, we owe our past selves a lot more respect and a lot more love and a lot more compassion because ultimately they're the ones that got us here, regardless of what your journey is. So I've pulled together a project with 22 fantastic contributors that will all be co-authoring a chapter for this awesome transformation women's book anthology. And I'm really excited to roll it out. And that will be a next year thing. At the same time, we also have a podcast going. So everybody contributing to the book also has their own dedicated episode as well to go a little deeper. And there will be merch. There might be a journal. There might be some other stuff supporting it as well. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. It's such a great idea. I'm so impressed by that. So I can't wait to like see all that. And you said there's a podcast. Is there like, do you have that going now, or is it like a link we could
Very
have?
soon.
Okay.
Yes, there will be a link that will be available. We are dropping it in the next couple of weeks for the first episode, which will be mine, which you
Yeah,
happen to interview me
I
for. So
did. Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, well, keep us
we did this in
posted.
reverse.
We did. I appreciate it too. But you keep us posted on that link, and I can send that out to get the word
Yeah.
out for you. That's great, exciting.
Awesome.
So
And I will
thank
do
you.
the same for this because I want more anecdotal stories and good things too.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. So much. This has been fun. Thank you. I really appreciate you. You put me at ease. I was very nervous to talk about myself today, so I appreciate it. I obviously
All
did. I
good.
obviously managed it real well, but I'm just saying I was
You
nervous.
did amazing.
I don't have that much trouble talking about myself, I guess, once I get started. But anyway, it was fun. So thank you, Megan, and have a wonderful day. And thank you everyone for listening. And hopefully we'll see y'all next time. So have a wonderful day. And remember, zoom into yourself, love yourself, and have a great day.